Hello and welcome to this episode of Hoopatheticals. This is an emergency podcast that we just recorded, Thom and myself, talking about the new Bucks trades, the Nets, and even the Suns. So if you're interested, this is definitely the one for you. It is an emergency pod, so I'm just throwing this together and then we're just going to upload it. So not a lot of editing, so hopefully you enjoy. All right, welcome Tom Nixon to this emergency episode of Hoopatheticals. I think today we are officially pretending that, like we usually pretend, we are sort of impartial with a leaning towards the Bucks. Today we're officially just ripping that Band-Aid off and just saying that we are officially Bucks fans and this is a Bucks-related podcast, all right?
Absolutely.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to know what they think about the Harden trade and like potential there, that's going to get touched on.
Yeah,
but you're absolutely in the wrong place. If you want to know in-depth thoughts on DJ Wilson and how he's going to affect things, then you're in the right place.
I just love as well, our listenership urgently requested this as soon as the trade talks began, and we've decided to give the fans what they want, and that's why we're here.
So, before we get into anything, let's just kick it off with this. Tom, obviously the Bucks have made some big moves. Can I get what was your reaction when you saw the trades that had gone through? Just instant reaction.
In one word, relief. I was really worried that we're going to miss the boat. I was really worried that we're going to not trade Bledsoe. I was just relieved that they, and even people who and we'll get into the criticisms later, but even the strongest criticisms, the very least you can say is, well, they at least got rid of Bledsoe and they've made some kind of moves. So I was just relieved. I mean, I actually think they're really good trades and we'll get into that, but relief. What about yourself?
Oh, mate. So here's what I did. I read about it. I read about the Jrue one and then, a little shortly after that, the Bogdan Bogdanovich one. And I walked outside and my girlfriend and my sister were just hanging out outside and they were having another conversation. I pretended to be a part of it for about 30 seconds and then I just started talking about what this means for the Bucks' future. They couldn't care less, but that was my instant reaction. I couldn't keep it in. I could not keep it inside me. So
they went back inside. I've been talking about it ever since. And we've just started recording halfway through that monologue. The soliloquy that is this conversation.
I have to say, but I agree. Relief was definitely the right move and definitely positive. I think like yesterday was kind of a blur after these trades came through because I looked at my computer and somehow I'd screen recorded 13 hours. That's a mistake I wouldn't usually make. But yesterday my brain was kind of scrambled and for some reason I was recording my own screen. So, but let's get into it. So, Tommy, obviously the big news overnight is that Jrue Holiday and Bogdan Bogdanovich have been picked up by the Bucks. Mm-hmm. Now, let's just break down the Jrue Holiday one first because that one happened first. So we lost. We gave up for Jrue Holiday, Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
There's also some pick swaps in there as well.
I think there was 2. There was 2 pick swaps.
Yeah. So more or less, just to break down the players though, before we get into sort of this like pick swap and stuff. So just a very brief thing. Jrue Holiday averaged about 20 points, about 7 assists, and about 1 2/3 steals a game.
Count it.
Bledsoe was 15 points a game, 5 assists per game, and almost a steal a game. George Hill, 9 points, 3 assists, and almost a steal as well. So that's what we gave up, plus some picks, obviously. Tell me your thoughts on this. How did you feel when you saw what we gave up and what we got?
Yeah, I mean, I was just happy that we offloaded Bledsoe in what was actually a pretty decent trade. I see Jrue as like just in every way better than Bledsoe. He's better at defense. He's can make his own shot a lot cleaner. He's bigger and stronger, which I think will count for some. Not that we're a small team, but it doesn't hurt that he's bigger. I just think he's a more like relaxed point guard or shooting guard as well. I mean, he will play point for us. I feel like he doesn't have as much to prove, whereas Bledsoe always felt like he had a chip on his shoulder. I think for me in this trade, the biggest thing, and this is probably my whole kind of, I guess, thought at this time, is losing George Hill and how is that going to impact the culture and the bench as well. And I guess the Bogdan trade is also a part of this. But yeah, I think that George Hill was really underrated in what he brought to the team as far as like relaxing the team, his experience. Obviously, an incredible 3-point shooter, but like his age and just how he chilled everyone out and brought everyone together, I think was huge. And so I think that's the biggest loss for us. But I don't know. Like Jrue, I like that he's only 30. I think he's 30 this year or next year. So he's kind of like in that perfect age where he's played quite a few seasons. He's still got a couple there as well. I think he's the perfect replacement to Bledsoe. I just haven't seen him in heaps of like high stakes games, which will be probably his only downfall. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't obviously got playoff experience or anything like that. But those are my first thoughts.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think for me, the thing that I read even more than the Jrue acquisition was the Eric Bledsoe getting rid of that. That was, I think, if you're not on any of the Bucks forums, I feel like that was what everyone was screaming for. Because we know, I think Bledsoe's sort of stats sort of mask what he is in a lot of ways. So he, on paper, he's a really good player because he's just sort of your standard like playmaker a little bit. He can score at the rim, and he's quite big and he's defensive as well. You'd look at his first and second team all defenses recently and go, okay, that's what we're picking up. But what you're not seeing in that equation is the drop off between regular season and postseason, which is obviously where the Bucks have seen a massive drop off, and was why everyone was just waiting to get rid of him. So and that's basically the biggest like addition by subtraction is. A lot of people are saying a lot was given up for Jrue Holiday, given that he's, sort of on the fringe of being an all-star. I think that was in the West. I think he, if he plays about as good as he plays for the Pelicans on the Bucks, there'll be a lot more eyes on him, especially if they're heading into the number one seed again. And so, so I think for us, it's good. We had to give up something good. George Hill, you and I talked about even in the offseason how important he was going to be in sort of trades that people like would probably have to give up someone like him and a Dante DiVincenzo. And it turns out we did. But I think what's really good about this is we know the Bucks going to be a really good defensive team now. He can replace Bledsoe at the offensive role. So, for example, if the Nets end up getting Harden, we'll be able to slap in on a Kyrie or a James Harden, which is someone you feel comfortable with. So that's really good. And I just think it's just exciting because it's really proving that the Bucks are really excited to properly win. We were already winning in the regular season. Now we're setting up to win in the postseason.
Yeah, and I just think that he'll be just a bit more relaxed and fit better in that point guard role, like in the starting five. I always felt like Bledsoe just seemed out of place. And I don't know if that was like just his playing style or his attitude or whatever it was, but he never really seemed to like click offensively with the Bucks. And I feel like Jrue, I really think that he's a better fit for the team. I'd be really interested to see how he fits culturally with the team and kind of, with the mood and the attitude of the Bucks. I don't know much about it. I will confess that I don't know a lot about his kind of, the way he carries himself or anything like that, his work ethic or whatever. But just even stats wise, like he can easily get 15 to 20 points every game. Whereas Bledsoe, like as much as he averaged 15, like he was so hot and cold. Like I have all these memories of the last few seasons where he would just consistently just get 8 or 9 points and a couple of steals. And like, that was it. Like he just was such a liability for a starting five. And that's great if you're coming off the bench. But for someone who's paid so much to be in the starting five, it just wasn't worth it. Whereas Jrue, it's like, look, maybe he got that many points because he wasn't on a great team. I mean, that's a fair thing to say. But I think that he will show that he can fit in a, really competitive team and work well in it.
Absolutely. And just like a final thing, we've talked about the DJ Wilson blank stare when he gets the ball. Bledsoe occasionally got those in the half court. Occasionally you'd see him staring and he just had no idea what to do with the ball.
Yeah. And even just defensively as well. Like the amount of times I've just seen him get like just even though he's quick, like he get blown by or like even just overpowered. And it's like, oh, mate, I don't know. He just wasn't good enough. He's great on... And this is the problem. He looked great on bad teams, on not great teams. You know what I mean? So he's just a liability. So I'm happy that we offloaded him. Yeah, shed more tears over George Hill. I actually really like George Hill for so many reasons. So that does suck, but I guess you kind of need to you need to cop that. If you're going to get someone like Jrue, who is, fringes of the all-star teams and should be, you know, I think that he'll fit well.
Totally. All right. Well, let's move into our next trade. Obviously, these happened quite close to each other, but the next one was to the Kings, which is that we have swapped out Dante DiVincenzo, Ersan Ilyasova, and DJ Wilson for Bogdan Bogdanovich and Justin James, who, I mean, I guess he's just technically just tacked on. So if we have a look at that, obviously, the biggest loss for the Bucks here is Dante DiVincenzo. You and I both liked his upside.
Yeah.
But in return, getting someone like Bogdan, who is a legit three-point shooter, like he's absolutely legit. He's he's in that sort of Duncan Robinson range of just a sniper. You can feel comfortable even if there's almost a hand in his face. You can sort of feel happy that the shot might go in.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting for the Bucks. The problem is, I think people like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero and those types really work when there's a lot of motion in the offense, and then they just pop out of nowhere and they're completely open.
Yeah.
The Bucks, like as much as I love the player is the exact right player. The Bucks are going to have to get some more motion in their offense if they want to get this guy really working.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Bogdan trade. I was really sad to see Dante go, just because I felt like he was on a really good kind of arc as far as improvements concerned, and I thought that he brought a lot to the team defensively, and his agility and quickness and whatever and steals. With Bogdan though, he's only improved. If you look at his points per game averages over the last 3 seasons, he's literally only gotten better. And so I think that he's the shooting guard we need. I think that he'll take a bit of pressure off Middleton as well, which I mean, Middleton's been performing really good. I'm actually a huge fan of his, but I guess Bogdan is replacing Wesley Matthews, and whilst that might be a defensive loss for us, I suppose, I think offensively it's a huge gain. Wesley Matthews' 3-point shot was just not that great. It was, I don't have the stats in front of me, but it was just I wasn't confident every time he put up a shot. I was just actually, do you want to get that 3-point percent? Because I can see, so Bogdan's for last season, he was shooting at 37.2%. From 3.
So this is where we find out Wesley Matthews is. Hold on, I've typed in Wesley Matthews, and I've got someone that's not a basketball player. Let's just have a look here.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
Sorry, mate. Here we go. All right. So 3-point percentage last year was 36.7. They reckon.
Yeah.
And 36.4.
So, yeah, I mean, that's not a huge difference.
It didn't feel like that, though.
It didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like whenever he got the shot, it was a sure thing. Also, I didn't like that he just went for 3-pointers. There was 2 games where he wasn't shooting threes. I'd be interested to see if they stretch Bogdan a little bit and try and get him to, I don't know, maybe do some mid-range as well. I don't know if that'll clash with Middleton's game, but I don't know. I don't want him to just be the spot-up 3-point shooter as much as he could fit, be that really well. I don't know. What do you think?
I think he fits perfectly because now we've got I think it actually opens up Middleton a lot more, like what you were saying, but it gives Middleton more license to go into the mid range because we don't need Middleton to be the person out on the wing if Giannis gets caught ready to shoot all the time. He can be that guy still, but he can now fully embrace his mid-range game and then flick the ball out to Bogdan. So if they can stack it up on that side, so it's just Middleton and Bogdan, the help's just not going to be there. And Middleton's going to get a lot of good mid-range shots, and we know he loves that kind of shot. And it's going to help Bogdan out as well. I think Bogdan's going to get a lot of open shots this season, just given how much you're going to have to help off Middleton, off Giannis, and off Jrue. I think it's just he's going to look really good this season. So I'm really excited. And I think also the 2 things that we get now are two people that you can throw the ball to in the clutch and feel confident that they can actually make the shot, which is something the Bucks did not have heading into this season.
I could not agree with that statement more. Like so many times I remember giving the ball to Bledsoe or even Matthews and just feeling like, oh man, just hoping on a star that something was going to come of it. But, I look at Jrue and I look at Bogdan, I'm like, I have faith that they'd be able to create their own shot, which is something you can say more for Jrue than Bogdan, to be fair. But, I am also a little concerned. We did a little bit, clear out our bench to get these players. I'm not too concerned. Obviously, losing DJ Wilson, he's the barnacle on the back of, this team. I have absolutely no qualms with seeing him, bugger off to Sacramento for the foreseeable future. Ersan Ilyasova, I don't mind Ilyasova, to be honest. I thought that he was defensively pretty good, had a decent 3-point shot. He actually could get some nice, but he's a bit old, and I think that he'd seen his heyday. So I'm not too worried about seeing him off. And who else did we get rid of for Bogdan? Who was the third person?
So Bogdan, we got rid of DJ Dante.
Oh, Dante, yeah, that's the biggest loss for us because he was like a starter and a really quality bench player. I kind of wish we'd gotten rid of Pat Connaughton instead. So I'm interested to see where we're going to go from here. I'm also interested, did Kyle Korver retire yet?
Good question. I don't think so. Maybe he did. Let me plug that in.
I'm gonna Google that as well.
Oh, Korver. No, I'm not seeing anything about it.
Me neither.
He might have, but yeah.
We'll see. But, he's at the tail end of his career anyway. But still, he didn't shoot too badly in the last season. So,
all right. Well, let's head on to just a quick other topic. So, we've obviously cleared out the entire bench for the Bucks, plus a starter or two. So looking at sort of the team now, it's basically the starting five, which we know is now Jrue, Bogdan, Chris, Giannis, and Brooke. And then on the bench still from last season, I believe we have Pat Connaughton. I'm just doing this off the top of my head. Pat Connaughton, Korver, Robin Lopez is opted out. Wesley Matthews is opted out. And I believe Thanasis Antetokounmpo is currently making our bench up.
Wait, what?
Of course, he's still on the squad. So he, in my opinion, I wanted to get to the biggest winners of the trade, and I guess I'm just going to do that. I would say probably the biggest winner of the whole trade is Thanasis Antetokounmpo, who's looking at probably about 10 minutes a game at this point.
I don't hate that. I actually hope that because he brings so much energy, like both on the bench and actually playing. I don't hate him seeing more minutes. I kind of hope that it settles him down. I can see him averaging like 5 or 6 points a game off the bench. I can see that. He's super athletic. I can see him getting to the rim. I don't know if he's got a shot on him, but I don't think it matters. I don't know. I can definitely see that. I know we've still got Sterling Brown and Frank Mason III.
Oh, true. Sorry.
So I just Googled, had a look. Yeah. I don't actually hate Sterling Brown still in our team. I think he's a really underrated defender and has a decent 3-point shot. Frank Mason III, yet to be seen whether he contributes, but he might see some off the bench point guard activity, I suppose. I think Thanasis really was the winner. He's looking at some serious 10 minutes a game from now on.
The thing that I've always been a bit disturbed by Thanasis though is he has absolutely no idea what to do on defense. Like it'll be someone will flick the ball to a Robert Williams on the Celtics, and he'll go double team him. It's like, mate, you were guarding Tatum.
The amount of times I've just seen him get too excited as well. Like you see him get flicked the ball on an offensive play, and he just seems so excited and almost like hyperactive, to be there, that he'll just end up getting the ball stolen from him, or he'll like fumble it, or he'll like just put up a really wild shot. And it's like, mate, just relax. Like, I know you only get, minus 2 minutes a game of, playtime, but you need to just relax. I mean, so I'm hoping he can kind of channel that excitement into something productive. I don't know why Giannis doesn't sit him down and go, look, we are more or less the same body type. Like, just do what I do. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know Giannis is a bit bigger and a bit longer, but like, surely he could just like be a poor man's Giannis and still get some points.
Yeah, he's like, mate, just because you have the ball, you don't have to sprint around the court. You're allowed to stand still sometimes with the ball. It's okay.
Legit.
Oh man! All right. Well, since we've done the biggest win, let's do the biggest loss. And what is the biggest loss from these trades? Do you reckon, Tommy?
For the Bucks, our biggest loss is easily George Hill. For the immediate, but probably in the long term, I think our loss is Dante DiVincenzo. I don't know how he's going to end up, in the future. But if as far as his improvements concerned in the last season, I can see him being like a pretty decent point. I can't see him being like the most incredible player in the NBA or like super dangerous, but I can see him being a really good off the bench point guard for many years if he keeps improving. Especially since he's got experience with the Bucks now. Like, I think that'll really play well into his career. So that kind of sucks that we lost him. I don't really give a rat's about the loss of our picks and the trade swaps and all this kind of thing. I actually think that those are kind of overrated. Like, at best, you're getting a pick of someone who's never played in the NBA but who's been good in college. Like, I don't rate that as a super valuable thing, as much as it can be useful and good for a team that's struggling. But the Bucks isn't looking like they're not looking to rebuild or find some star player from college. You know what I mean? Like, they're where the team's at the moment. They're trying to put pieces around Giannis and Middleton and win a championship. So they're not looking for a pick. You know what I mean? They're looking to trade, and so I think that they used these picks, in inverted commas, like quite usefully to pick up some decent trades in Jrue.
Yeah, totally. And I think like the other thing as well, all the Bucks picks are going to be pretty average for the next couple of seasons, just given how good the team's going to be.
Exactly.
Like they're not looking for the number one pick. Yeah. They're looking for the 30th pick.
Which means
like
nothing.
that's going to be their pick in the draft. So it's not. Yeah, absolutely. It's like you could get, like a Draymond Green type there, or you could get some guy who never sees a minute in the NBA. So it's not really, it's not a massive loss. Yeah. All right, so let's just run on to the next topic here, which is that I was watching a little video today. Kendrick Perkins, former NBA player, says that the Bucks now have the best starting five in the NBA. What do you think? Do you think that feels right or not?
I'm trying to think. I think it's a really good starting five. I don't know if it's the best. I think it remains to be seen. Again, I know I talk about culture a lot. I think it remains to be seen how they gel as a team. That's the real pick. I think that people think that if you put various big names together, then all of a sudden that's the best starting five. And that's why I'm really bored with this kind of Nets talk about Harden going to the Nets. And we can get that in a moment. But like, I still think the best starting five is probably the Lakers. Just because they were incredible in, all of last season. But this is, if not the best, definitely the second or third best. And I think that they made the best, the team with the best record in the NBA for 2 years in a row have an even better starting five, which is, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, totally. I think it's probably the best starting five if you were to average out all the different positions and you compared it to every other team and you looked at the averages. I'm sure the Bucks probably have the highest average of like player, because the worst player there is Brook Lopez, and he's a former like star for the Nets. So that's in that sense, it's really good. But yeah, I think they are a really good starting five, and I think it's good. What this gives them is a flexibility that wherever your weakest point is, they've got someone that can attack that point now.
Yeah.
So if it's if you've got a sort of defensively liable like shooting guard, now we've got a shooting guard that'll run around and torture that person. Or if your point guard is someone that doesn't really defend, now we've got Jrue Holiday that you're gonna have to use, and and we can just do that up and down the line. Like even Brook, if you've got a just average center. We saw in the playoffs, you can just toss him the ball in the post and he can at least get something going. So I feel like that's really good. We've got a lot of options and a lot of places to sort of hit people.
Yeah, I just think they'll complement Giannis so well as also, he's really at the peak of his career right now. Two like back-to-back MVPs. He can like just like walk onto the court, do nothing, and get 20 points. You know what I mean? Um, Averaging just ridiculous numbers, and I think that like these additions will just make him feel like he doesn't have to win like single-handedly every single game. Like if I'm not worried now. If
Mm.
Giannis sits out a game, I'm like, oh, Drew Holiday can totally, take control of a game with Chris Middleton. Like that seems like a really good duo now. Whereas before it was like, geez, I hope Bledsoe shows up and doesn't fumble, or doesn't just start taking threes. And people forget, like, do you remember Eric Bledsoe just taking multiple threes every time and it's just like, mate, you've never been a 3-point shooter. There are so many other options. What do you do? Whereas Drew Holiday, legitimate 3-point like option. I'm not worried about that. He's got a little bit of mid-range there as well. And so I think that that'll make Giannis feel like, I can actually win in Milwaukee and, we're gonna go good in the postseason.
Yeah. Absolutely. And now, Tommy, let's talk about your second team and a team that you said at the start of last season you thought they were going to make the playoffs, the Phoenix Suns.
Oh,
They
nice.
have acquired, obviously, Chris Paul and dumped a couple of things over towards OKC. I know you're excited about this. Are you seeing playoffs for this team?
I am seeing, yeah, look, I don't think they'll get much past the 8th seed, in fairness, as much as I really do love them and I'm super excited. The West is still obviously hotly contested, those 8 seeds. But, mate, I don't know. Chris Paul, like, he's had a great season. I think he'll be perfect. And if he does exactly what he did with OKC last season with the Suns, that plus Devin Booker equals I'm buying a Booker jersey. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so excited. So I'm really keen to like watch how they go this season. I think they're going to be really entertaining, and it won't just look like the Devin Booker show anymore. Which, as much as that was a fun show to watch, he'll actually have someone to work with now. And they've also still got a lot of talent. Even though they did, who did they trade? It was like Rubio, Oubre. Yeah, it kind of sucks. I really like both of those players, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely. And I think what's fun is they were already a fun team, and I think Chris Paul is a really fun player. I think they just become such a fun team to watch this season.
Yeah, they'll be really entertaining, and I can see them getting the 8th seed and giving like the Lakers or the Clippers or whatever real like pain in the backside, for the first round. And maybe even an upset, I can definitely see them being an upset and then getting knocked out in the second round, and who cares, but like just being like, we really didn't want to face this team, because Booker can just get hot, Chris Paul, and then Chris Paul can just see you through the end of the game. So I love that for them, and yeah, I'm really keen to watch. I'm 100% on the bandwagon, mate, well and truly.
Amazing. You've hitched a ride. It's good to see, Tommy. Yeah, no, I think they're going to be a really fun team. All right, well, let's get into the other one that's had a lot of chatter, which I feel like will be maybe your least favorite team of all time, which would be the Nets with Kyrie and James Harden and Kevin Durant. Now, when I saw this, I instantly thought you are not going to like this at all. Tell me a bit about your thoughts on if James Harden goes over to the Nets.
Do you know what I don't like? And I've said this before in previous episodes. The thing I like the most about the Nets is when Kyrie wasn't playing. Like, they were such a gutsy team, and they had so much like chutzpah. You know what I mean? And now I just feel like having the two All-Stars. I actually don't hate KD. I think that he is quite humble and I think his humility will actually play well into that dynamic. But I'm worried, like Kyrie, I don't know, man. And if Harden goes there, which I don't know how they can afford him. That's the thing I don't get. And maybe I just haven't looked into it enough. But I cannot see those three players working harmoniously. When KD went to like the Warriors, everyone was humble enough to go, okay, we need to share this pie, like the scoring pie, so to speak. But and I think that worked because Clay and Steph, they're pretty humble dudes. They want the team to win. They're not. I don't think that they want to just be all about me sort of thing. But I look at these three players, and KD's definitely, I think, got that attitude, especially now that he's had the injury. He probably, knows his limitations a bit more. But I cannot see Kyrie and Harden harmoniously scoring, next to each other. I can't even see their games, the way that they approach the basketball game working well. I don't know how that's going to work because Harden always goes ISO and Kyrie also does that. You know what I mean? So there's no way you're going to see Harden just sit on the wing waiting for an open 3-point shot. You know what I mean? Or Kyrie doing the same thing. I just can't see that. So I think that this is all talk. And if it happens, I think it'll be a beautiful train wreck because I think that the Nets will just – everyone will be like, oh, they're going to be amazing, number one seed, la-di-da-di-da. And I think that they'll just implode. So –
I think, the thing that's really going to scare me, and it's unfortunate for Steve Nash, who this is his first season coaching, is he's going to have 3 players that are all the first option on every other team they've been on, and now going to be one of them has to be the third option for this team.
Who do you pick?
So one of them is going to get. I think I think Kyrie's got to be your third option.
Really?
You've just got the score. Depending on how KD comes back, but if he comes back pretty much the same, Kyrie, to me, is the worst option out of those 3. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only thing – because KD, you're never the same after you do an Achilles. So he's not going to be as athletic. He's still going to have the shot. He's still going to have his crossover, but he's not going to be as athletic. So if Kyrie can actually just not injure his finger or whatever he did, and not be a mad just princess, I think that KD will have to take that back seat a little bit. But I actually think that might work. I think that would be okay. If KD, he goes, all right, I'm not who I once was, but I can still put up 15, 20 points. That might actually work, play into Kyrie's hand well. I still cannot even fathom how Harden would fit into that because he's the star. You know what I mean? And I don't know how they would work off that team well. And I just feel like it's not going to do the rest of the bench and the starting, players any favors. I feel like they'll just Jarrett Allen was great. I thought that he was so good last season. And I just feel like they're going to feel deflated. Oh, why am I here? This game's all just these 3, and they won't play this gutsy brand of basketball, which is so fun to watch. So I don't know. I still don't think the trade will go ahead, to be honest, man.
Fair enough. And I just quickly on what I would think if I saw this, the thing that I'm going to say will frustrate them to no end is that their guards cannot guard anybody. So
exactly.
If you've got a decent guard, it'll frustrate the team because they'll miss rotations and all of a sudden, teams will go on 12-0 run if they can't put the ball in the bucket. And the team will have no answer to it. They don't have someone to throw and go let's just at least throw this person on. Or if they do, there's some second stringer, third stringer guy whose whole game is defense and he can't play a lick of offense.
Exactly. It's just, who's the defensive option on this team? And what if they just start missing threes? You know what I mean? Because it's kind of watching the Rockets last season. Once they go cold, it's just you're watching shooting practice for the under 15s. You know what I mean? No one's hitting anything, and it's what's the point? Your whole game plan is scrapped. And so I'd be really interested. What if Kyrie starts missing, Harden starts missing, KD's kind of just getting a couple of mid ranges every now and then, and they've got no one to defend people like Jrue Holiday. You know what I mean? Or Giannis. I just see I can just see Giannis just bowling over KD every single time. You know what I mean? Just literally pushing him out of the way, bully ball style. And KD's not going to be able to do anything about it. And who else are you going to put on him? Jarrett Allen? Nah, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Well, hopefully it happens just so we can see it implode. Tommy, I wanted to do one final segment with you that I wanted to test out. Hopefully it'll be funny and we can make it a regular one. But Tommy, I'm going to give you the job. Just in 1 minute, you've just got to sell me on this player, all right? You're their agent. Okay. You've got to try and get them the next contract, and it's got to be a big one. You don't know who this player is yet. I'm going to reveal it to you now, okay? You've got 30 seconds or a minute to tell me why this player should get a better contract. Your player is, of course, DJ Wilson. Sell me on him.
Oh, mate, you've done me dirty. DJ Wilson, I think he looked bad because he was on the best team, and he didn't get enough minutes. We know that he's big. And I think that if on a team where he can get a few more minutes, he can be a defensive option against other bigs in the power forward position. His 3-point shot has been improving slowly. And I think that if he worked on like a hook shot or a little, fade or something like that, he could be a good option. DJ Wilson is not worth much, but I think that he could be a good off the bench, 10 points a game sort of vibe on a team like, I'm thinking the Bulls, the Hornets, even like the Cavaliers, Sacramento. Hey, why not? So he's got potential. He's still young, he was born in 96. Oh man, he's super young. He's only 24. So he's still got potential, he's got weight, he's 2 meters tall, man. I don't think I think with a good bit of good coaching to increase his basketball IQ, that'll go a long way in using it, that with his athleticism that's already there. DJ Wilson can be a good off the bench option for any coach.
Yeah, absolutely, and well done, Tommy, to improvise such
I hated every word I said then.
It's tough when your ideal teams for him are the Cavaliers, but look, what are you gonna do?
It's DJ.
And I think if you're absolutely, and if you're the agent, you'd be telling them, don't look at Low Light Central. Just keep your eyes firmly away from there.
He had one really good game last year. Legit. He had I cannot remember it, but it's out there. It does exist in the highlights on YouTube somewhere. And he put up like 20, 25 points. I don't know how many of our team was out, but he put up some points. He was hitting shots. He looked great. He has a decent hook shot, kind of like kind of fade away, just, outside the key sort of thing. So, he can score. It doesn't happen much.
All right. Well, Tommy, thanks for jumping on this emergency pod. I'm glad that we managed to squeeze one out that's actually newsworthy. So that's pretty exciting. But, mate, thanks again for jumping on.
It's been a pleasure, mate. And I look forward to the next season. I cannot wait for the 22nd of December.
Yeah, same. All right. Well, see you, mate.
Peace.